Happy Monday, all. Hopefully, you are hanging out and relaxing at this 12:37 hour here on our Monday, the third one in August. Unfortunately, we are talking severe storms. Now, we talked about this a little bit yesterday on our restream, but today we're just going to kind of do an overview of what to expect. I just want everyone to remember that, it's kind of that time of the year where we have these strong to severe weather events, but oftentimes it's not widespread across the entire area. But the storms that do develop will pack a punch. Now, when you step outside right now, it feels like we've done a complete 180 from where we were yesterday morning. We saw a lot of sunshine, low humidity. This morning, it's been pretty cloudy in spots with some sunshine peeking through. And of course, the humidity feels like it just smacked you in the face. That, of course, is ahead of this next storm system. And that humidity and that daytime heating is going to allow for a few of these strong storms to develop. Now, if you haven't already, I would go to the WCNC Charlotte website or mobile app and watch Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich's mobile weather vlog that he puts out. Has great information, even more than here. But the goal of this is to give you kind of an overview of what he was talking about, but also to answer your questions. So if you have any questions that you want to know, please feel free to leave them here, and I'll try to answer as many of them as I can. So the current situation that we have across the area, of course, is we have a lot of low-level moisture coming in from the Atlantic and from the south. And then on the other side there, we have a northwesterly wind, and that's kind of shoving some of those storms you can see already developing into the mountains and foothills way above the atmosphere, while we have all that low-level moisture to the south. All of that humidity, all of that warmth is going to allow for, of course, some of these strong storms to develop. Now, this cold front here to our north, that's kind of our trigger here, and that's going to allow for some of these storms that develop to become strong at times. You can kind of see that the front is working its way slowly down closer to the mountains, which is one of the reasons why we're already starting to see a few thunderstorms there. Let's see if our graphics on turn. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. So what do we have out there right now? Well, we have a few storms already developing actually toward the mountains and foothills. Now, this heavy rain that's been kind of working its way through Ashe County is starting to provide some of those storms popping up. I've seen a few lightning strikes associated with these storms near Chestnut Hill there. And then you can see up toward portions of Ashe, Watauga, and Avery counties, we have a few more storms on the way. Now, a little bit of a sprinkle activity there down south toward Lancaster, parts of Chesterfield counties, but that's pretty much all we're seeing right now. The storms down south towards South Carolina are pretty much driven right by the daytime heating, but it's the storms up to the north, closer to the mountains, that are starting to get ahead of that front. Now, I mentioned a second ago that it really is humid out there right now. I mean, look at these emojis. I like using these a lot in the morning because it's just a really good representation of what the dew points right make us feel like. So yesterday, Saturday, we were smiling because the humidity was low. Right now, you can see kind of that shocked face, some what I call meh faces you can see over toward Asheville. It's just because it's so humid outside, right? It kind of smacked you in the face, hit you like a brick wall, what we call air you can wear. Now, that humidity, of course, not only makes us feel bad, but it allows for a lot of that moisture to kind of hang in the air. And that has an impact on the wind gusts we'll see later on today. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But of course, we have the humidity, we have the trigger with that cold front. We also have the warmth. Temperatures across the Piedmont already reaching the lower to middle 80s for most spots. We have some areas still in the mid to upper 70s, but it is still warm and humid enough for some of these storms to develop. And of course, in some spots across our area, especially southwest of Charlotte, we are still a little bit what we call drier than normal on the U.S. Drought Monitor. But other areas, especially along the metro and down south, we actually have seen a decent amount of rain. It's taking care of a lot of that drought. So for those of you who maybe have already seen a lot of rain, you don't want a lot more, right, for your lawns out there right now. So if you live in an area like that that's maybe seen a lot of rain, or even maybe is a low-lying region, you just want to watch out, of course, for that localized flooding. So here's kind of the setup and how I kind of expect the day to go. So we're seeing, of course, those storms in the mountains right now. And as we approach 2 o'clock, I think a few more will be working their way through the mountains and foothills. As we get closer to about 4 or 5 p.m., these will be moving closer to the Charlotte area, closer to the northern Piedmont, and they'll be blowing up a little bit more. It is important to note that these storms aren't going to be that perfect squall line where we oftentimes see a line of storms as a cold front moves in. We'll have some storms kind of lurched together there, kind of locked in together. But you can see in this particular screenshot here at 5 o'clock from one of our models, we have lots of really heavy rain. And of course, that's down toward Lancaster County, over toward Union and Anson County. And then you can see kind of that line of storms there over toward Lincoln County, southern Iredell, and Rowan County. So it's not just going to be those storms with the line, it's going to be those that develop ahead of it as well. Now, for the Piedmont, for the Charlotte metro area, it's between about 4 to 9 p.m. that you'll see your highest risk there for strong to even severe storms. That doesn't mean you couldn't see a storm outside of that time frame. That's just going to be that severe storm time frame. As you can see, by 8 o'clock, we see more of those storms working their way down south toward the southern Piedmont and toward the Sandhills, and see even some storms lingering even at that point up toward the mountains and foothills. So it's just going to be one of those days where we see our primary risk there for strong to severe storms in the afternoon and evening, between that time frame 4 to 9. But we really need to keep an eye on the sky pretty much any time this afternoon, as it is of course 12:43 at this hour, and we're already watching some storms developing toward the mountains. Now, what are our primary impacts as we go throughout the day? Well, heavy rain leading to some localized flooding. I mentioned that a second ago. We're also going to see what's called a moderate risk there for downburst winds. So that's just not those typical gusty winds in excess of 60 miles an hour. The downburst winds are the ones that, we see a lot of heavy rain and a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. So of course the clouds get really heavy too. And when you see that heavy rain, oftentimes what happens is we see a lot of that kind of shoved toward the ground. And then, of course, it's the spreading out at the bottom once it hits the ground that allows for those downbursts to kind of develop and become a little bit more aggressive. So that's what we're talking about when we refer to downburst winds. A downburst can be anywhere between 60 to up to 120 miles an hour. During some of these summer storms or even spring severe weather events that we've tracked over the last year here in the Charlotte area, the maximum winds I've seen closer to about 75 to 80. But I mean, it still can provide significant damage. So we really want to focus in on those downburst winds potential. And of course, that moderate risk there for some isolated flash flooding. The frequent lightning, of course, right, with those typical afternoon storms. Something that we haven't seen in quite some time is see this low risk there for a tornado. Recently, we have had a lot of these spring severe weather events that have really focused in right only on the winds and the lightning and the heavy rain. This one, though, because we have the cold front trigger kind of adding to it, that'll allow for additional spin, what we call cape values spin in the atmosphere there. And it's that lift, that spin, that instability that's going to spark up that small risk there for a spin up. Again, we haven't seen this in quite some time, so I just want everyone to kind of be on guard. Remember, though, the tornado risk is very low still, but not zero. So it's not like there's going to be an outbreak. We just want everyone to kind of keep an eye on things, especially if you see storms develop in your area. We say it a lot, but a great tool to have is the WCNC Charlotte mobile app. With that, you're able to, of course, track the storms in real time with us. You can get the latest forecast from our team and also get alerts if you choose to do so if you turn on those location services in your backyard. And oftentimes, when we talk about damaging winds too, just a quick note here, wind actually causes about 90% of our severe weather damage here in the Carolinas. Oftentimes, straight line wind damage can actually be mistaken for tornado damage. So winds are a lot more common to cause our damage here locally than even a quick spin up. Oftentimes, that's, again, only about 10% or so of the time. And sometimes that damage can just be caused by heavy rain. So just remember, wind is a big impact here. And essentially what happens, right, is we have that evaporative cooling, right, in the storm. It shoves all of that rain, like I mentioned, closer to the ground. That shoves out all that spreading out at the bottom of the ground, allows for those winds to get much more aggressive, especially when we have a saturated ground already. It can topple trees and things of that nature because it's a kind of a localized damaging wind event. Oftentimes we refer to those also as a microburst. Now, hail is a low risk today. We could see some hail up to about an inch, which is a quarter. That is the severe weather criteria. Also, with some of these wind events, sometimes we can get, or hail events that is, we can get maybe a penny size, a little bit smaller, even up toward an inch and a half, but it's not going to be baseball size, tennis ball size kind of event. So of course that's positive news, looking ahead to that. But if you really want to be safe, maybe you oftentimes park your car on the street, but you have an option to put it in a carport or in a garage. You could do that just in case. We, of course, also, besides just wind and hail, want to look at some of that rotation situation that I was talking about a second ago. So Let's see, here we go. Okay, rotation tracks. So the thing about the rotation later on today is it does look like this is primarily going to be after 5 p.m. So mostly toward the Charlotte metro area and southeast. You can see over parts here of Anson County, Union County, and even down toward parts of Richmond County and Chesterfield counties. So this risk is especially high there toward the southern half there. Kira saying, I swear I have an umbrella over my neighborhood. We rarely get the rain or the thunderstorms. This year, more than past years, but it seems to miss us a lot. Could just be dependent on where you live, but we definitely don't have a widespread event today, Kira, but we do have those isolated storms possible. So, of course, these rotation tracks, just a good reminder, right, that models are guidance, they're not gospel, but this is kind of the area around the Charlotte metro area and southeast that will especially be watching for some of those rotating storms there as we hit the second half of the evening hours. So futurecast rotation again, primarily between about 5 to 9 later on tonight. Let's see if we can get these graphics to advance. Here we go. Sometimes there's a bit of a connectivity issue with the storms over there. Up, so you can see there we go. By about 11 o'clock, most of that does look to wrap up. Now, here's the positive news as we look ahead to the rest of the week. If you're like myself and you like summertime, right? But sometimes you just want a little bit of a break from the 90s. We're in the mid 80s today with the storms coming in. And then actually behind the storm system, we're actually going to drop to some highs in the upper 70s and lower 80s. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to be rain free and we're not going to see that low humidity like what we had this past weekend. But even as it's going to be sticky outside, at least we're not going to be also dealing right with the oppressive heat. And we'll keep a few showers possible in the forecast, but those will be especially prevalent kind of toward the end of the week. In fact, I've been looking at the short-term models, and it looks like Tuesday and Wednesday, we're really only going to see a spotty shower or storm or two there. So it's not going to be a widespread risk there for any kind of storms the rest of the week. So just to kind of wrap things up here, we have a strong to severe storm possibility across the Charlotte area today, main time frame between about 4 to 9 p.m. Heavy rain and even some damaging downburst winds are our primary impacts. But because we are under a moderate risk here for some of those events, and we do have a cold front moving in, that additional spin in the atmosphere will keep a very low risk here for an isolated tornado. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that for you throughout the day. Again, if you haven't already, watch Brad's vlog that's over on our website, WCNC.com, and the WCNC Charlotte mobile app. And if you are going to be out and about today and you want a way to get alerts, you got to download that app too. You can have all of the forecasts here from the WCNC Charlotte weather team right in the palm of your hand. I hope everybody stays safe, has a happy and healthy Monday. And of course, like always, we'll get through it. And the rest of the week does look to be much better weather-wise. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Monday. And I'll see you tomorrow morning on Wake Up Charlotte right here, starting at 4:30 in the morning. Have a great one.